Welcome to this online lecture on Introduction to the Arabic Alphabet. So first things first, this is Unit 2 of your Islamic journey, and this is the intro to the Arabic language. So congratulations and mashallah, you have completed Unit 1 of the journey, and that was the introduction to prayer and its components. So now we're going to kind of move on from the broad end of the spectrum into the more in-depth or more detailed specific end of the spectrum, which is dealing with the Quran, how to read it, and first of all, understand the Arabic language in order to do that. So again, this is the second unit of the journey. Some things to keep in mind of this journey is number two, I should say, is that it is a very content-heavy unit. That is a bit unfortunate, but the nice thing is about this unit, in fact, is that everything is dispersed. So, in other words, we are going to go through each component of this unit bit by bit. There's going to be no rush in anything. We are very far from evaluation in anything. So it is very important that you stay calm and do not panic, because we are going to work with each other on this. We're going to go at a very nice, slow pace so that we don't feel overloaded or worked up. Okay? And the last point, I kind of talked about this a bit, but there are two major evaluations for this unit. So test 1 and 2. Test 1 is a written test, so it's knowledge-based, and test 2 is also written and it's oral. So there's two parts to that. It's knowledge and application. And the application part of it, which is the oral part, is just reading Arabic phrases from the Quran to see how well you understand it so that you can read it in real life and continue your journey as a Muslim, inshallah. So now before we get on to the content, I'm going to start off with A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Very important to start off with that. So when getting onto this unit, it's very important for us to kind of set a model for ourselves and outline some objectives in order to get the most out of any unit in this journey and to be successful in them as always. And the very first objective of this specific unit is this just constant process of review, and practice. I cannot emphasize this enough. In fact, for anybody learning the Arabic language and alphabet, it is absolutely crucial and incumbent upon everyone to review the Arabic alphabet as many times as one needs to in order to familiarize yourself with letters and their sounds and their structures, which will then lead into the second objective, which goes into Arabic phonics, so sounding of each letter and those concepts there, and then our end result, which leads to objective 3, which is actually reading Arabic from the Quran, and that's the end result of our recipe. So now this slide just actually highlights some of the key points of this unit, some key facts actually, or objectives that you should be familiar with in order to make it easy for you to progress through this unit. And the first thing being to distinguish between similar sounding letters. So that is Q versus K. We talked a bit about this before, and we said that the letter Q has a strong K sound versus the letter K, which has a weak kind of K sound, right? So Q corresponds to the letter Qaf, right, in the Arabic language. All right? And then you have the letter K. So the letter K here, that is over here. The letter K corresponds to the Arabic letter Gaf, right? Letter Gaf. So we have K and Q. So notice for letter Qaf, I'm making a strong Q sound, okay? Now the next thing to look out for in this unit is the concept of common stem structures. This always applies in the alphabet, and I'll explain this later on. This concept just summarizes the fact that letters originate from a single structure, but the fact that this common structure can have multiple forms. The next concept, the last two concepts on this page are just phonics-wise, right? So you have sounds from the throat that deals with the letter ha. So notice how I'm not saying, just saying ha as in ha ha, but I'm saying ha. Okay, you have to say ha. Use your throat when you say that. Then you have the letter qaf. So I drew that up here. That makes the q sound. And the letter kh. You already know, I heard you make this sound before, so you're pretty good with that, but just keep that into practice. So the letter looks something like this. Okay? Oh, I also forgot to mention the letter ha looks like that as well. You can already see the common stem structure that they have. The next concept is tongue on teeth sounds, okay? So what that is you're touching the tip of your tongue with your teeth when making the TH sound, which is our first example. Now, the TH sound that stems into two sounds. The sound, as in the English word the, and the th sound, as in the English word tooth, okay? So you have a sound here and sound there. The next sound is the DH sound, which is sounded as in dhikr. So remembrance of Allah, right? That's what dhikr means. So the sound here of dhikr is also pretty much the same as the TH sound as in the English word the, right? So you can kind of debate that this sound sounds very similar to this, but you don't have to worry about that too much. And then the last two sounds, T and D, they don't necessarily make the English sound. So you're probably thinking, okay, maybe Hamza's going to say T as in tip and D as in dog. Okay, no, not quite. So for the T sound, I'm actually going to say tip, right? It's almost like you're spitting a bit, but I'm not saying don't spit. I'm going to say it, but you're using the tongue and teeth, right? Same thing for D. If instead of saying dog, I'm going to say dog, okay? Dog. So that's just some stuff to look out for. So now we actually get to the specific stuff here. And that is the concept on common stem structures. Okay, so we talked a bit about that. And common stem structures are letters that have the most original structure or backbone. And they can also be customized into different forms. So they can have many different forms. And the common stem structures, actually, this concept can also be called the parent stem structure, right? Or the parent structure. In fact, the concept on parent structures is probably a better way to think of this, because all of the different forms of the common stem or parent structure kind of originates from that. So let's look at the first example. These are two letters from the Arabic alphabet, and this is the letter dah, and this is the letter ta. Okay? So if you notice, look at them carefully, you'll notice that both of them arise from this common stem structure or parent structure, which is this structure here. Now let's go into this example. Letter ba, letter tha, and letter ta. They all have this structure in common, or this parent structure in common, right? So that's something to look out there. What about for letter zain and letter ro, right? So they have this structure here, common stem structure, and the only thing that differentiates both of them, that distinguishes them from each other, is that zain has a dot to make it different from letter ra, right? Same thing for the letter ba, tha, and ta. These letters have different positioning of the dots so that they have different sounds. So it's almost like homographs too. They look the same, but they have different sounds and possibly different meanings, okay? And the same idea is for ha, kha, and jim. These are three letters that are very similar to this example that I put here on ba, tha, and ta. So they all arise from this common structure here, okay? Now, we're going to get into some exceptions, because when you look at the Arabic writing in the Quran, you'll notice that some of the letters can be written really different. They can be written in different forms. And if I show you that over here, letter Kaf is this letter here pretty much, and this letter. So it can have two forms. As I showed you, this is the alphabetical form, or the letter form that's written in the alphabet. You'll see it with the little Hamza symbol there. But when you look at the Quran, you'll mainly see this letter of Kaf written. You'll see letter Kaf written like this mainly in the Quran. So it almost looks like the letter Ya over here, except it has a bit of a zigzag kind of component to it, whereas letter Ya is kind of like that, okay? So that's just some context over there. And then the letter Ya, so you see this is the letter Ya in its alphabetical form, which it has two dots beneath it. So the letter Ya may not always have two dots beneath it, because mainly in the Quran you're going to see the letter Ya written like this, okay? So that's just some ideas. And then you have the letter Alif. So the letter Alif does not always have the Hamza symbol on top. So in alphabetical form, letter Alif looks something like that. But in the Quran, you're mainly going to see letter Alif written like a little stick over there in the Quran. So again, alphabetical form, Quranic form. Alright? The next idea is letter Ha. So letter Ha can also be written in the following forms. In this form here, in this crazy loop-like structure there, and then in the capitalized alphabetical form here. So again, these are not common stem structures, okay? It's very important not to be confuse common stem structures with the exceptions to exceptions. And that's because each of these letters, they both make the ha sound, but they don't have the same backbone structure, right? If you see that here. So very important not to get confused. And lastly, this is the slide on the Arabic alphabet. I probably should have went through this first, but I already went through a lecture previously on this entire alphabet before, so I'm just going to kind of circle what we learned today, just to summarize. So we see letter Ba, letter Ta, and letter Tha. Those all arise from a common stem structure, right? We already know what structure that is. Then you have letter Jim, letter Ha, and letter Kha. You have the same common stem structure. Same with letter, let me just get a different pen color, letter Dal and letter Dal, okay? Let me see, highlight one more example. You have letter Sod and letter Dod, alright? And in fact, you can pull out many examples in the alphabet. You see To, you see Dho, letter Ain and letter Ghain, Sin, Shin, Ra, Zain, alright? Just the fact that all these letters have similar structures. So that is the conclusion of this online lecture, and in our class on Thursday, inshallah, we will be going through the entire alphabet and some of the phonics also involved. But thank you for your attention.